I'm Jill. I set up the Fig Leaf channel some time ago to support Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses leaving the organisation to process their thoughts and feelings around sex and relationship. Anyone who has been indoctrinated as a Jehovah's Witness or knows much about Jehovah's Witnesses knows that the organisation very tightly controls all kinds of sexual activity, including within a marriage, but outside of that, sex before marriage, sexuality, pretty much everything around sex and relationships is micromanaged by the organisation. So there's a lot to unpick when you leave. So this is a video which follows up my XJWs and sex workers video. Once again, a huge thank you to everyone who participated in that video, and go check it out if you haven't seen it already, and hopefully YouTube haven't done anything horrid to it on my page. This follow-up is with the wonderful Emily, who reached out to me and wanted to give her story. So Emily has a story that I know you're going to find interesting, and hopefully many of you or some of you will be able to find that this story resonates with either your own experience or your own feelings about things. So I found this a really, really exciting and a lovely interview to do. Take it away, Emily.
So you were a witness then. Were you born in, or what? How did you get into it?
Yes, I was born in, and I gosh, I was gung ho. My parents were very they were like on the outskirts, so they kind of guarded me from some of the more extreme and real kind of crazy teachings, I guess. But we were very active, always out in service, always family studies. I wanted to get baptized when I was 6,
Oh,
and they told me I was too young. I tried when I was 8, and they called me the night before. They called my parents the night before the assembly and said, "You're too young." And my mom had already bought me a dress and everything. So I cried at every baptism talk until I was 10. And then I got baptized when I was 10. Um,
bless you. What was it that made you so desperate to do it? Did you want to, what was going on in your head at that age?
um, I loved it. It was, all of my family, my friends. It was fun. And I believed that that's what needed to happen in order to be okay. I used to keep myself up at 10 years old and think about all the things that, if when we are persecuted, and when God decides to do Armageddon and all this other stuff, that will be beat and tortured and yeah, all these other stuff. And I used to read articles about how, brothers and sisters who got beaten after the second hit, they didn't feel it anymore.
Mm.
And stuff like that. So I would think of what would I say, what would I do, because that would just, the idea of being beat or tortured to death was absolutely terrifying. And I kept thinking, well, if I'm doing the right thing and I have the right prayer, then I won't feel it when it happens.
Hmm.
And I tormented myself with thoughts like that. And so it was easier to do the right thing and feel like that protected me than yeah, than to do, and I just and then I started having health problems when I was 12, and we had to have a liaison committee, and for because I was going to have I had complications from an appendectomy, and I had a massive blood infection, and the surgeon wouldn't do the surgery unless I was able to accept blood transfusions. And so we had the whole liaison committee and had to find a different surgeon, and all, it just all reiterated that, like, I was safe if I was doing it God's way. um
Hmm.
I didn't see it outside of that. And then because of my health problems, I graduated high school early, at 15. So I was just home, and that's all I did was involved with the witnesses, and going out in service. I went on a travel tour group of Europe when I was 17 with a group of witnesses. It was designed that way, and just stayed in it. And then I ended up getting married when I was 18, to a brother, and he was an awful human being. So, and just really bad. And we had fooled around a little bit before we got married, and he immediately started hitting me, beating me, um, quit my job for me, so I couldn't leave the house. And we were together for only 10 months, but I was in the hospital twice from there, and the city stepped in and pressed charges against him. And a couple weeks after that, he told the elders that we had fooled around before we got married, just save himself, so kind of thing. And I was sitting, recovering from surgery and all this other stuff in a back room with three grown men. I was only 19, and I explaining exactly what happened before, and they told me that I taught him to disrespect me, by allowing him to go too far before our marriage. And so I was publicly disapproved, or sorry, reproved. Sorry, publicly reproved. I'm remembering the terminology, and then I was told I was being vindictive by going to court because it wasn't being handled within the congregation. And so that was also part of the being publicly reproved. Um, and we ended up getting divorced. And I mean, he cheated on me with men and women. He got another girl pregnant. And it, came out that way, but it still took me a long time to get my privileges back. And I was in that, like, oh, she's divorced, but not scripturally divorced stage for a while. So I wasn't even allowed to be in groups with boys. And yeah, it was 19 years old, trying to get on my own feet and everything else, but I still stuck with it. Um, and I ended up getting remarried to a guy that I knew. He was really good friends with me, and he was uh, he was not baptized. He was raised as a witness, but just kind of always rejected it. And so that was, an issue. But
Mhm.
we got married, and then I stayed in it until um, I was 28, and my mom passed away from cancer.
Mhm.
And that experience is really what pulled me out of it. Like, I had, doubts and things like that, but I was talking to one of the elders, and he said, um, the teaching about how they won't be able to get remarried in the new system. And my parents were high school sweethearts. They were married for 37 years. And it just, that didn't sit well with me. Like, he could get remarried as she gets resurrected, and she's not allowed live an eternity, and she can't be with anybody. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to me at all. And so I started to just not really, like, believe it. And when she died, um, all of the things that she had kind of protected me from and the more extreme teachings became very clear. And I was like, whoa, what? Yeah, I am 28 years old, and this is crazy. Like, this is
Mhm.
not what I was taught, what I was raised with. And so I started kind of like leaving at that point, but I was still physically in for another 7 years after that to get out. So I kept moving around, and um, moved to Florida for a bit, but then my husband had issues with drugs, and we ended up splitting at that time. And I came back to Colorado, and I moved 5 or 6 different times congregations, trying to get them to lose um, my
Yeah.
cards and not follow me around.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found a really great place in Colorado, that was like it was a little carriage house. So you couldn't find my door, unless I told you explicitly where it was. So
Hmm.
I got them out of there, but then I decided to go on a date with a worldly boy at the time, and I was assaulted. And he's in jail for attempted homicide and rape, and it
Not
was that was
you, Andrew.
what?
W- Was that the assault on you that he's jailed for?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was brutal, and I've it was 6 years ago, so and I've come around a lot like since then. I've done a lot of therapy and trauma groups and cognitive processing therapy, things like that. So, um, but my dad, who I still had contact with, and he was remarried. At the time, he lived about a half hour away from me and wouldn't come to support me because it was a worldly boy.
Oh,
And I had put myself in that situation. Uh, so
goodness.
that was like, okay. Whoa. And I eventually, because of a string of circumstances from that, I ended up moving in with a girl, a friend of mine, and I was in a relationship with her for 4 years, but it
Mhm.
was an extremely unhealthy, really not a good relationship. And I just got out of that one this past October completely. It took a long time, and it's cost me my inheritance and my cat, my car, my inherited belongings. She's kind of kept everything, so I'm going to court and battling that as well. But because I was with the woman, my dad then outed me to my entire family and disowned me, and that was about a year and a half ago. Um, my sister will still talks to me. They're still they're like mentally and physically out. And so but she has a really hard time with me on OnlyFans. So that's really challenging for her. And I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in. I live with my boyfriend now,
Mhm.
and it's just really like he's 50, I'm 40 years old, and we've got businesses together, and we've got all sorts of plans, and we just have a really good time together. It's a great relationship, and I wish she could see that and be a little excited, especially since I've had so many yucky relationships and questionable ones. And yeah, I would be nice if I could share some of that excitement with her, but my life choices concern her right now. So,
Oh, bless you. I'm so happy to hear that though, because as you were talking, I was thinking, goodness me, this woman hasn't had real love, hasn't, apart from maybe your mother, you
yeah,
haven't been shown kind of non-toxic love so
no,
far at all.
just,
But I'm so
yeah,
happy to hear that you are in a healthy relationship now.
yes, it's fantastic. It's really good, and it just keeps getting better. So, and we have, like it's, yeah, of course, I live with him. We're not married, so that's a big no-no. I'm actually still legally married to my second husband. We're still friends. We still talk and hang out with each other occasionally, but because of where his life went and we couldn't make it work together. But we
Mhm.
do still love each other and talk to each other, um and that's nice. And I don't have any desire to get married again. So we're like, we have the perfect marriage.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, I
good.
don't.
So, yeah.
So how did you get into OnlyFans then?
So because of the end of my relationship with my ex-girlfriend there, um, I ended up with very limited options. And because of my disability, physical work is not something I can really do. So, at least well. And so I thought, well, I did a little bit of modeling when I was like in my teens. And of course, that was a big no-no in the witness religion, and I eventually had to stop that because of that. But I enjoy it, and I had fun, and so I started looking for things I could do at home that I could, make some supplemental income, until things get kind of straightened out. And it started pretty good. And then my ex was stalking me online and reporting me, and she caused I lost my Facebook because of her, and I lost all of these things I was using to market myself. And for a while, and so it took me a bit to figure out how to work around her and get that done. And now I'm starting to build it up again, and I've got a couple of good sugar daddies that like to contribute. And I like to do dances and real creative, artistic type pictures. And, they're sexy too, but, it's a lot of fun. We have a good time. And my boyfriend helps me with it. And he's completely supportive of it. Like, he even knows if I'm chatting with somebody else while he's there. Like, he's not, he knows I'm doing my job. So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, yeah. What's your style? What's your kind of, do you cater to any particular interests or?
I do. I'm very red hair. Red hair is one of the things I have a lot of people who are fans of redheads and groups of redheads. So that's a big one for me. And then I also have very big natural boobs. I'm at 34G. So I can, yep, exactly. So I can sell that online as well. So that's a good one for me. And I have a couple of feet guys and stuff like that, but not too into like I've had been asked for like random kinks and stuff like that. Gosh, my eyes are watering. But I haven't really got into that too much because I'm like, I'll find somebody to send you to. So,
You, you kind of
the more extreme kinks.
yeah, you've got to be authentic. You've got to work with what you've got and just be yourself, really. So how do you do you have any residual feelings about your time as a witness? Because it's very kind of Puritan and, the modesty culture. And, you said your sister's not okay with you doing OnlyFans. So how do you feel about those two lifestyles?
It It clashes sometimes. I have we make a joke sometimes because I'll say, like, well, had just finished up having great sex, and I had said the F word along with God at the same time a few times, and I had this like guilt when I came, like was telling it afterwards. I was like, ugh, like I had this little string of guilt for saying that. And my boyfriend's like, that's an awkward time for shame. Like, and we joke about it, but I do. We were just in a sketch troupe, like an SNL sketch troupe, and it's adult content, it's cussing, and Jesus is a pot smoker with Moses, and it's that kind of humor. And a lot of them were cussing, and I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do it on stage. It was too like, oh, like I would almost whisper, or something instead of saying it
Right.
out loud. And that's that ingrained conditioning there, to like reject it. And so there's still a lot of things that I do,
Mm.
um I on a like core level that I still am responding to that I've tried to not do. I was super private with my life until my dad outed me. And then after that, I was like, oh, got my nose pierced, my lip pierced, I got tattoos on my wrists, and my Facebook page is public. And, people can see what I'm doing, and I could care, that's me. I've gotten
Yeah.
extremely confident with like who I am as a person, versus feeling bad about everything and feeling like I'm a bad person because I do enjoy OnlyFans, or I do enjoy smoking, or like it's like I'm comfortable with who I am and how I express myself now. And I have amazing people around me, chosen family, that, really makes a difference with that, and way better. I mean, two or three friends that I, have found that are like lifelong people outside of the witness religion are worth 1,000 of my witness friends.
So
Like they're not turning me in for having a low cut shirt or, dating too young or, whatever it is, seeing a rated R movie, like that support is huge. And I never realized that until my 30s, my late 30s, how valuable and really life sustaining that is,
yeah,
to have that kind of support from friends and people, and not have people always watching you and what you're doing, and are you doing this the right way or not their way, or it does. I struggle with death. um I've lost a lot of people, and very close people, and I've been present for a lot of deaths, and it I struggle with what happens after death. That's a belief that I'm definitely in the atheist camp. Now my belief systems, I don't really believe in a God. I don't, and I love getting the answers to things that I've wondered my entire life. And I
mhm,
get the answers, when I do research and it makes sense, and okay, like I
yeah,
can go with that. So I'm more in that camp for sure. But I do, every now and then I go, oh, well, I'll never be able to see my mom in the new system. Or, and it's those old thoughts that come back up, and
yeah,
like, oh God, am I okay? Like, and trying to figure that out. But I know it feels so good to be who I am and to have the answers that I have. So I just kind of go back to that feeling and like kind of work through it, because it is scary for me sometimes to let go of, 30 years of belief, and I was fully in it, man. I was, you know, pioneering and all sorts of stuff. So,
yeah, yeah. And that's the one thing that we can't get the answers for now. Sort of what happens after death is just,
yep.
we can find answers to a lot of things these days, but just not that one. So personally, I try not to think about it too much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. You can get stuck on it for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
so now that you're more free, and I love what you were saying about being able to just be yourself, being open, having your Facebook open, and not minding what anybody thinks of it. That's a stage that I've reached as well. Um, but how do you feel about sex generally? How do you feel like you're much more liberated, or did you enjoy the secrecy before?
No, no, I did not enjoy the secrecy, not at all. I am a lot more liberal, and free with it. I, I'm like we're in an open relationship. Um, so if we want to sleep with other people, we can, and we, tell each other. We're just very honest with each other about it. I have the most active sex life I've ever had in my entire life, and it's good. It's really good. And I think also, with all the sexual abuse I had in my first marriage, my second husband really helped me with that. He spent years just letting me figure out what I liked, because I had such that mentality of sex is for men, it's not for you. You're there to please them.
Yeah,
Um, and I had no clue what I liked. I had no clue what I enjoyed. And he took probably the first 5, 6 years that we were married and really just let me figure it out. Like, and that was incredibly healing. And that helped a lot. And then as I got older, then I was, the assault happened. And that shut me down for a long time. And I think that's, I couldn't even be around men. That's why I was with a woman. And even unhappy, I was still safer in that
yeah,
situation. And when I started reaching back out for other people at the end of that relationship, I had done so much healing in my therapy and all of that stuff, and even physically, that curious again and starting to be more open, um, and wanting to be with a man again, specifically this guy, but that I'm with. But he and then I was able to explore with him all the things that I wanted to do before and just never could. And, was, yeah, always like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. Even if you're married, you're not allowed to do that. I mean, the rules, like, you can't even have oral sex,
Yeah.
if you're married. Like, come on. I mean, good grief. And I had a complete hysterectomy when I was 22. Um, and so the like I don't get I don't know if I can say these words, but I don't get vaginal orgasms
Hmm.
as well because I don't have, all the internal parts. And so it's mainly clitoral. And the idea of eliminating all of those extra steps and foreplay and things like that, for me, that doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
I need all those steps. And that just, yeah, like telling you what to do in your bedroom, just, uh, it's gross. It's gross.
Yeah. But you know what you want now, and you've got the confidence. I mean, like yourself. Oh, just kick the thing. Um, I didn't have an orgasm until my early 30s. First time in my life, until I was with my now husband. So there's a lot of growing that we do, but also there's a lot of this, the gender dynamics when you're married as well. I'm sure it's not the case for everybody, but it's, the
Mm.
husband's the boss, and if he's a bit of an asshole, you're not going to have that emotional connection to be able
Right.
to relax and do things. So yeah, I'm very much relating to that. What would you say to anybody leaving the organization who wants to explore their sexuality? Because you've got a lot of factors going on here. You're a survivor of domestic violence, you're a survivor of an assault, you've experienced so much childhood trauma, you're bisexual, you're a sex worker. What would you advise to somebody who's trying to explore themselves?
Do it. Do it. And get comfortable with yourself. Um, I was so at odds with what I wanted. And I mean, I remember being a teenager and wanting to do sexy pictures in my modeling days. And as an adult, I get to do that now. And it's so empowering. Um, I am in control of my content, what I do with my body, and even in all ways in my relationship, things like, I'm in control of me,
Yeah.
and that is hugely freeing. So I think, but at the beginning, I didn't know who I was. I had no clue. I only knew this person that was the witness that was trying to do all the right things, and I had no clue who I was. And that part, figuring out who you are and what you like, um, is amazing. It's amazing, and it's so worth it. Losing friends, losing family, obviously is crushing. That's very crushing. Um, but I would take my life now, the way it is now, and not have them in it versus the way it was and
Yeah.
having them in it.
It's not
It's
trying to fit yourself into a box that somebody else has made for you.
right,
And
exactly. And exploring those things, like I started wearing more fitted clothing and started to, do my hair and makeup differently and started to get comfortable with my own body again. And then
yeah,
if I thought something sounded good, I went through a little patch there right when I turned 40 where I got drunk for the first time and was experimenting with other things for the first time and experimenting with different sexual partners. I went kind of wild there for a few months,
yeah,
but it was very healing. I had very trustworthy experiences, some not, but for the most part, I picked good people that accept me as I am. Bisexual and figure things out. Didn't and just and understood that I was learning. that I was learning about myself, and that I may try something and not like it, or I may do this and not like it. Um, or that's going to be really great. And we just thought of that. So let's do more of that. Like, we'll figure, it's that freedom to figure out who you are and
Yeah.
be patient with yourself, and show yourself so much compassion. It's one of the things that my therapist tells me all the time. Like, he's always having me work on self-compassion, and it's really it's true. I think as witnesses, you do not give yourself any compassion. You're so hard on yourself, and a mistake is a sin, and
Mhm.
you are responsible. And if you know somebody else's sin, you don't say anything, you're just as guilty. Like, everything annihilates your self-worth.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Even having a puff on a cigarette if you're not sorry is
yep.
kind of, it's a worse sin than committing rape or murder if you say you are sorry.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And that kind of stuff. My mom, she was the survivor of the worst child sexual abuse I've ever heard of in my life, movie or otherwise. Her experiences from her stepfather. I mean, she was pregnant twice by the time she was 13, and her parents surgically had an abortion and told her they removed a cyst off of her ovary. I mean, it just horrendous. And she married my dad, high school sweethearts. She raised my sister and I, and we became very fearful of men because of she was broken, and we saw that. But she
Yeah.
was also the warrior of we had a large sexual assault case in Colorado here when I was about 15, 16 years old, and my mom, ever the defender of kids and sex abuse survivors, and that was her thing, and she was so good at it. She was such an incredible mother and person, and all of my friends were like her kids, and things like, she just took them in, and she would go to war for you in a minute. And she did. And this case, she got involved, and she was talking to the elders. She wrote the governing body. She was angry that this man was allowed to continue to go to the Kingdom Hall after he had done these things to these girls and sit in the same hall as these girls, even though it was handled judicially. I don't know
Mhm.
why my eyes are running so bad. Sorry.
It's a
But
day fever. It looks like a really nice day there.
yeah, it is. But it all of these things that were just atrocious. And she wrote the governing body, and she was shut down and told, she was going to get in trouble for meddling and things like that. And she would kind of step back and then push forward in other things, but she was always there. And these kids who are now in their 50s um, still talk to me, and they're none of them are witnesses anymore. One of them is still kind of on the outskirts, but they all talk about what a hero my mom was to them and what that did for them. And it just, that makes me so proud of her and how I was taught to see things that way from her. Like, this isn't right. That doesn't sit well. Um, this should be reported. Um, Absolutely. And then she had to go to court against her stepfather when she was 35, and married and two kids and everything else. And, seeing her be that kind of person,
Mhm.
it confused me as to why she was a witness, seeing her be that kind of person and such a strong woman. But I think because she was raised with all the, like, the abuse, having some sort of um, control, or like rules, boundaries. I think that kind of made her feel safe in a way. Um,
Yeah, no,
so,
I get
I
that.
mean,
It can feel, if the world has been scary, it's easy to swallow up the narrative, isn't it?
yeah.
Was the stepfather a witness?
What?
Was her stepfather a witness?
No, they were not. So my mom and dad became the first witnesses on both of their sides.
Mhm.
And they got baptized together, holding hands on their 5th wedding anniversary.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, I was like, you know that would never happen anymore, though. That's a dedication you make by yourself.
I think it can attract people who are kind of justice warriors. They see so much wrong in the world and they
Yeah,
want something to happen to fix it. So I can kind of see how she was attracted to it. If it happened to be true, she would have absolutely have been on the right side of things. It's
yeah,
just, it's not.
yeah, yeah. And it's nice to but to see all of the double standards and the secrecy and um it is. I am totally agree. I agree that they need to be it needs to be against the law. There needs, like they need to be sued for these things. They need to be, I love that I'm hearing places across the world that are even thinking about making shunning illegal,
Yeah,
because of the depression, the suicides, everything that happens from that. It's
yeah.
atrocious. I mean, I don't have any children of my own, but there isn't anything on this earth that would make me not talk to them.
Thanks, Emily. That was wonderful. And again, really appreciate you giving up your time. And I know that my viewers do too. That's all that we've got for you today. But if anybody else would like to reach out to talk to me on any issues that you found were controlled when you were a Jehovah's Witness or other high control group, and you have now managed to explore yourself and find yourself since leaving, then please do get in touch.